And hey, everybody, welcome back once again to Beer Time with Big Bird, that fun and awkwardly hilarious and entertaining show we do once a week right here on the Salt and Streets podcast stream, where I crack a beer and welcome in the weekend, and then we talk about some form of newsy type thing that's been bothering me throughout the week. So yeah, once again, and today is a special Friday. Today is Veterans Day, so shout out to all the vets out there, all you various vet people out there. What's up, Deborah? I see you in the chat. I'm going to give myself a thank you because, of course, I am indeed a vet, and I've only been given like a half a dozen thank yous already today, which has been pretty sweet, mostly from fellow vets, which I find kind of ironic, which is also hilarious. Plus, my mom said hi, so that's cool. She always says hi. So anyways, welcome. Happy Friday. Deborah, I see you in the chat. Happy Friday. Welcome to another fantastic weekend. Sorry, everybody, I missed last week. Sign of the times. Daddy's getting a little old these days. My back was out last weekend. And fun fact, I was out one day this week because my neck is all jacked up. I feel like I'm just getting old these days. And I've been working out too. I'm doing like all the things that you're supposed to do when you hit your 30s to make sure that you don't die at like 60. But for some reason, you know, Big Bird is like a thing. Hey, Deborah, thank you for thanking me for my service. Happy Friday, Deborah. And today, let's talk. I got this new beer here. Because it's Seattle, everything seems to be geared Seattle-like these days. And so this is Kraken Stash IPA from Hop Valley. I usually like Hop Valley beers. But Kraken is our latest and greatest NHL team here in Seattle. And I don't know. I haven't been watching hockey, so, you know, I hope they're doing all right. But I'm assuming they're probably not because they're a brand new team. But hey, whatever. Doesn't matter. Somebody wants to make a beer named after them. I dig it. I like Krakens. The great Kraken. So cheers, everybody. Cheers, Miss Deborah. Shout out to you. Ooh, smells good. Ah, nice, light, refreshing IPA. Yeah, kind of really light. Real light. What's going on here? What are we doing? What does this say? From the mysterious depths of Hop Valley Brewing comes the legendary Kraken Stash, a mythological smooth IPA brewed with cryo hops that's sure to rock your boat. 7% ABV, 58 IBUs. Yeah, that's pretty low end for the IPA scale, especially in the Pacific Northwest where I hail. It's pretty low yield as far as bitterness goes. Brewed by Kraken Brewery in Seattle. Not bad, though. Nice way to kick off the weekend. Oh, and what a weekend it's going to be. Because, of course, I missed last week's beer show, which was, you know, painful, obviously, for more than one of us. But that means tomorrow is the big day. That means tomorrow we're gearing up for, I cut it out of the shot a little bit. 137, episode 137, Salt Streets Podcast. We're coming back. Donovan is coming over to the studio, as is per our usual arrangement for the time being. We're working still. I mean, Studio 2B, 1B, 2B, Studio B is very, very fresh. It literally hasn't even started yet, but the dream is in progress. We're about to make this happen. We're about to have 2 studios for Salt the Streets to be working our magic. But anyways, tomorrow we're going to be here, and we're going to be cracking into episode 137, which it's going to go deep. Obviously, it's been a slightly interesting couple weeks. We'll call it an interesting couple weeks. We had the midterms, which is definitely going to be a topic of conversation, probably at length, as we do here. But we're going to be talking about the midterms in part 3, if I got that right. Usually Donovan and I have our wires crossed about what is going to be, but I think midterms is part 3. And in part 2, we're going to be talking about that lovely, epic intercept story that kind of like said the quiet part out loud, if you will, and reported on the incestuous nature, some might say fascistic nature, of the relationship between social media, big tech platforms, and the federal government that was put out by The Intercept. And so we're going to be diving into that story. And then, of course, talking all sorts of mad shit on both big tech and the federal government, as is our lifeblood on the most pro-America, anti-government podcast that you know, that is the Salt of the Streets. And, of course, for part one, we're going to be diving into our lovely surprise segment of Let Me Ask You This. And whether or not I come up with a second Let Me Ask You This is still up to debate. I think I might have a question for Donovan. I'm not totally sure. But I'm sure he's going to have something great to ask me and, of course, to ask you. So make sure that you are joining us for part one of Salt of the Streets, episode 137, tomorrow, right here on the Salt of the Streets channel at noon Pacific Standard Time. Daylight savings is officially over, or started, or no, it's over. So it's Pacific Standard Time now. We're on you know what we're doing here. So we're on Pacific Time, noon tomorrow. Be here or be square. Make sure you hit that notification bell up there to hopefully get a notification. I would imagine that you may or may not get one, especially after tomorrow's episode where we talk all manner of shit against big tech and their incestuous nature with the federal government. Deborah, I know you'll be there, and I am so looking forward to it because I know you're going to have some things to say tomorrow because, you know, we know what we're getting into. I just went over it. But we've also got a fantastic grab bag. We're probably going to split the grab bag in twosies just because it's so awesome, and the local stories for here are kind of light, if you will, for this part. So we're probably going to break the grab bag up in two at least. And so we'll do Let Me Ask You This, and we'll probably do some grab bag stuff. And then in part four, obviously, is our standard grab bag. As per the usual, I've got my Twitter bookmarks ready to go, so we'll probably scroll through there. But we're also going to be talking about kind of what's been going on with big tech as far as I have words, Deborah says. That's like a nice turn. I always say I have thoughts. I have lots of thoughts, and I'm going to pontificate on them on high. But yeah, we're going to be talking about big tech and a lot of the layoffs involved there. We're going to be giving some updates on the Elon Musk Twitter situation. Yeah, just so you guys know, spoiler alert, for $8, the low price of $8, you too can be verified on Twitter right now. As long as you don't do it on your phone if you don't have an Apple phone. Yeah, because I looked on my Android. For some reason, I have an Android now. I don't have the Apple phone anymore. But I went to go look at the little Twitter Blue verified thing, and it was unavailable on my Android app. It was only available on Twitter iOS app, which is just awesome, if you will. But anyways, we'll be talking about, the whole deal with big tech right now. Meta's got a whole lot of things going on, a.k.a. Mark Zuck and his Facebook apparatus. So we talked about that. Last week, I was going to, for the beer show, until I was dying. I was like writhing in pain, and I couldn't get out of bed because my back hurt so bad. I was going to talk about the COVID amnesty article that came from The Atlantic. So we're going to package that up and move that over to the grab bag this week. So we'll be diving into that nonsense. And I'm sure Donovan's got a few choice words for that. And I really hope that you guys get involved with that one, because I also want to know your thoughts on COVID amnesty. I have a feeling you're not too keen to provide a lot of amnesty to these fucking COVID Nazis that we had to deal with over the last couple of years. So we'll be diving into that, and of course, so much more. Because, God, what a hell of a 2 weeks it's been since we've been here together again. It's been a wild deal. But today we're going to be talking about something rather contemporary, rather recent, that just came across the transom, but of course is near and dear to my heart. In kind of a twisted fashion, because I, for one, could benefit greatly from the unconstitutional nature of what this thing is. But I have scruples, I have morals, and so I do not want to take advantage of this, because it is blatantly 100% unconstitutional, goddammit, and we're not going to do it. We love the Big Bird. Happy Veterans Day. Donovan's in the chat. Look at that. Hi, buddy. I miss you. It's only been like a few hours since I've seen you. But yeah, we're going to be talking about student debt transfer because there's been some movement in that. I refuse at this point to call it student debt relief because it's not relief. It's only relief for some. And it's a transfer of debt onto others. Some people get their debt relieved, and then that burden gets to be put on all us other plebs that decided not to go to college or who have already paid off their college loans or who, whatever. If you're a taxpayer, you get to pay for this. And that was decided on high by El Presidente Biden himself, because we live in a fascist dictatorial nation nowadays where a number one Presidente gets to sign a piece of paper and says, you have to pay for this guy's college education, which he probably dropped out of anyways because, you know, it's 2022 and why would you go to college for anything? So let's dive into that. If you are one of those people that has done the bidding of the Biden administration and gone over to studentaid.gov/ manage loans / forgiveness, cancellation, debt relief, whatever. Here you go. If you're trying to get your student loans relief, this is what you are seeing today. Application process. Student loan debt relief is blocked. Courts have issued orders blocking our student aid relief program, student debt transfer program. As a result, at this time, we are not accepting applications. We are seeking to overturn those orders. So the executive branch is seeking to overturn a ruling from the courts. We've already applied. If you've already applied, we're holding your application. Subscribe, and check back here for updates. We will post information as soon as further updates are available. So if you're one of those poor people that decided, no, we're not going to be able to do this anymore. It's not going to happen. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to happen. And unfortunately, this did not come out until today. It did not come out until today. And so the Biden-Harris administration, forgot, we can't call it the Biden administration because that's sexist. We got to make sure we include Kamala Harris. The Biden-Harris administration's executive edict that says we're going to just take your loan and make sure everyone else pays it except for you has been blocked by a federal court out of Texas. And this came from Brown v. Board of Education. In short, the Constitution vets, quote, all legislative powers in Congress. Thus, powers, however, can be delegated to the executive branch. But if the executive branch seeks to use the delegated power to create a law of vast economic and political significance, it must have cleared congressional authorization, aka the Congress has to vote on that shit. If not, the executive branch unconstitutionally exercises, quote, legislative powers vested in Congress and Congress alone. Separation of powers, people. Separation of powers. In this case, the, quote, HEROES Act, a law to provide loan assistance to military personnel defending our nation, does not provide the executive branch clear congressional authorization to create a $400 billion student loan forgiveness program. The program is thus an unconstitutional exercise of Congress's legislative power and must be vacated. Period. Full stop. Done. It's over. We're paused. We're not even paused. We are ordered to vacate. No more. Deborah says, I paid my shit off. They should have to also. Biden was just blowing smoke up potential voters' asses. You're welcome. Amen. And I think we'll discuss it further in tomorrow's episode, but I think he got what he wanted. He played the card he knew he couldn't get at the end, and I guarantee you that factored into a lot of those, specifically that demographic of voters. I hate how we do this thing, and I'll pontificate it on high tomorrow, but the fact that we categorize all these human beings into these weird categories as far as like voterships go. Kat, you need to not play with Donovan's microphone right now, all right? I'm going to turn it down, but don't play with it. You're killing me here. But the fact that there's this kind of new group of voters called unmarried white women, and that group of voters, I guarantee you, were highly swayed by the opportunity that he would have this power to get rid of their student loans, and thus ushered in another wave of Democratic power, which is, shaky at this point, because technically it looks like, I don't want to get in too far, but it looks like the Republicans are probably going to take the House with a slight majority, and Senate's still up in the air. And honestly, we probably won't know how that's going to turn out until the end of December or January. But we'll see how that goes, because Georgia's fucked. But we'll see what's going on there. But anyways, I guarantee you this definitely swayed a lot of people's decision to vote one way or the other during the midterms, and led us to what we saw over the last week, which I am just biting my tongue right now because I want to go fucking off on the midterms. I want to go off so hard, but I'll save it till tomorrow. Probably around 12:30, 12:45. I'll start going into that a little bit, because we'll talk about the Washington midterms in part 1, and then we'll take a breath, and then we'll wait till part 3, and then I'll just go hard. So anyways, we're moving on. This is from Reuters. The U.S. stops taking student loan debt forgiveness applications after ruling. November 11th, a.k.a. Veterans Day. That's today. The U.S. government has stopped taking applications for student debt relief after a federal judge blocked President Joe Biden's unconstitutional, they forgot a word there, loan forgiveness and the loan transfer program, according to a notice on government websites. We just saw that. A judge in Texas, you get rid of this whole next part, who was appointed by former President Donald Trump, ruled on Thursday that Biden's plan to cancel hundreds of billions of dollars in student loan debt was unlawful and must be vacated. The Biden administration is appealing the ruling. Quote, courts have issued orders blocking our student debt relief program. As a result, at this time, we are not accepting applications. We are seeking to overturn these rulings. If you've already applied, you're killing me. We'll hold your application, the notice says. That's what we just read. Done. Okay. About 26 million Americans have applied for student loan forgiveness, and the U.S. Department of Education has already approved requests for 13 million people. Many words, Deborah. Yes, including on this. With it, the U.S. Department of Education has already approved the request for 16 million people. That's insane to me. Kevin Garcia, anyone who knows anything about the Constitution, knew the student loan forgiveness, quote unquote, was just a lie to get votes. Amen, Kevin. Hey, Kevin, welcome to the chat, buddy. I don't believe I've seen you here before. Thanks for joining us. And yes, truer words have never been spoken. That is about as true as it gets. 100% unconstitutional from the jump. I believe we talked about it on the show at the time. This was insane, and it was just a ploy. Like, the timing was weird, but because it was a while ago that he tried to do this, but it was stupid, and it was a fucking gimmick from the get-go. It was a gimmick from the get-go because anybody with two fucking common sense that could be rubbed together knew that that is 100% unconstitutional. You cannot just through executive edict decide that all taxpayers across the entire nation have to just now be on the hook for who are ostensibly the richest Americans in the world. The richest Americans among us. The people that are going to go to college and then get a nice fat 4-year degree and then go on to make more money than the standard blue collar person. Now all those blue collar people got to be on the hook for those loans? Fuck you. That is 100% out of the executive branch's authority and totally unconstitutional. So anyways, we read on. The appeal would be heard initially by a 3-judge panel of the New Orleans-based 5th U.S. District Court of Appeals, a court dominated by... oh my God, I hate how they always add this context. A court dominated by conservative judges who have stymied other Biden policies. Maybe all those other policies are blatantly unconstitutional as well. Maybe. Why do you got to put that context in there? For one, it has nothing to do with the story. The judicial branch is 100% divorced from the executive branch. So whatever judges are sitting there, doesn't matter who appointed those judges, technically. Mind you, we don't live in that kind of world. Everything is political these days, so obviously it does matter. But technically, and in the court of law, that has no bearing one way or the other. A judge will do their fucking job because they're a judge. Period, full stop. That's how that is supposed to work. Kevin Garcia, I didn't go to college and one of my brothers did. He works for a maintenance company and I own my own business. Why in the hell would I be responsible for his choice to go to school or anyone else? Fucking amen, Kevin. That's all closer to home. My wife has student debts. I do not. But of course, because we are a married joint household, homie's kind of semi on the hook for those loans as well. I very much would like those loans to go away. But I have moral scruples and I understand how the Constitution works. I am a liberty-based individual. I do not believe in this corrupt institution that we call government. I don't believe in any of this shit. And it is no way, while it may be my responsibility as a married man to help my wife pay off whatever debt she has because we are a married household, I take that on 100%. I knew what I was getting into at the time. But no way do I think that anyone else should be even responsible for one penny of that debt that me and my wife carry. Period, full stop. That is not how any of this works. Mind you, it wouldn't suck, but also I'm not trying to steal money from anybody. Don't hurt people and don't take their stuff. The two rules from Matt Kibbe, based Matt Kibbe, that Donovan talked about in his book show with what was the name of that book? The name of the book was Don't Hurt People and Don't Take Their Stuff. Yeah, by libertarian Matt Kibbe. He did on the book show a few months back. 2 golden rules you can live by. Right there. I'm breaking rule number 2. I'm taking people's stuff. So I don't want to do that. That is wrong. It is 100% wrong. And if you are somebody of some kind of religious, if you have a religious founding, I feel like that's probably wrong in your religious ethics as well. I mean, don't steal. Don't take things from other people that don't belong to you. If you have a debt, you don't take people's money to resolve your own debts. That's not how this works. Not how this works. We should be taking a page out of Game of Thrones. You know, the Targaryens always pay their debts. That's like a whole thing from Game of Thrones. We should all be doing that. That's a good founding principle. If you're going to have like a founding ethic in your family, always pay your debts. That's a good deal right there. And you're not going to steal people's money to do that, right? So we move on. We move on. Of the court's 16 average judges, only 4 were appointed by Democrats. Trump appointed 6 of them. Again, Reuters, I don't know. You can just delete that entire sentence. Hashtag fucking misinformation. Let's get the NSA on these people. Report them to Facebook for misinformation. Or would this be malinformation, where it's technically correct, but it offers the wrong context to the situation? I believe this is malinformation. We're going to report Reuters for malinformation on Facebook. White House Press Secretary KJP Karine Jean-Pierre said Thursday the department would hold on to application information so it can quickly process their relief once we prevail in the courts. You're not going to prevail in the courts. Why? Because it's unconstitutional. And if you do prevail in the courts, I mean, not that it's not already dead, but that means it's just one more nail in the coffin to the death of the judicial system. But U.S. District Court Mike Pittman, an appointee of former Republican President Donald Trump in Fort Worth. Again, just get rid of this entire little chunk right there. U.S. District Judge Mark Pittman called the program a, quote, unconstitutional exercise of Congress's legislative power by Biden as he ruled in favor of two borrowers backed by a conservative advocacy group. Well, yeah, it's of course, because if you want to take anything to the court, especially in the level of federal court, it's going to cost more money than any standard regular day American can afford. So you need some kind of advocacy group to back you just so that you can get some form of justice. Possibly. Because I want a lot of stuff, but it is my own responsibility to earn those things. Leave people alone. Don't ask anyone to pay for anything you don't earn yourself. Amen, Kevin. Amen, Kevin Garcia. Thank you for coming to the chat today, man. You are fucking base as shit. You belong here. Welcome to the fam. Deborah says, I thought it was the Lannisters. Oh, damn. What did I say? I said Targaryens. I've been watching too much of that Reign of whatever the hell that new Game of Thrones show is. Yes, Deborah, you're correct. The Lannisters always pay their debts. I forget because the two basically crossed at some point. But yeah, no. We're thinking, what's the new show called? It's called whatever. It's a really bad show. That's all I'm going to say. It's just not good. It's the ice and fire thing. What is it called? Oh my God, I can't remember. Either way, that's how bad it is. I just memory hold that shit. The litigation could ultimately wind up in the U.S. Supreme Court. Conservative Judge Amy Coney Barrett has already turned back two requests to block the program in lawsuit out of Indiana and Wisconsin, two states she was assigned to assess emergency appeals from. End of article. It's a really weird way to end that article. But yeah, there was already two cases that were brought up. I don't think we talked about on the show at all, but they were essentially dismissed for lack of standing at the time. Which I think actually our next article kind of gets into a little bit. But the lack of standing thing, we've talked about that a lot as far... House of the Dragon. Thank you, Deborah. I hope you're not enjoying that show because it's trash. It's trash. There is one new show that's good. And before we go to the next article, let's just talk about new shows for a second. Because the House of Dragons was rough. But it was nowhere near as rough as the new Lord of the Rings show, because that was, as a fan of The Hobbit, as a fan of the Lord of the Rings, you know, I've done the books, the whole 9 yards, I've watched all the shows, I have all the extended edition of all the movies, and they're one of my favorites, and I rewatch them all the time. Huge fantasy nerd. That show really, really upset me, because it was just terrible. It was just terrible. The most expensive show, I think, to date, ever made in all time. And it was the worst show I think I've ever seen, ever. It was just a show about nothing. The CGI was okay in some parts and terrible at some parts. All the actors and actresses basically they were completely monotone. They had no emotion. There was zero character development. There was just nothing to it. It was just nothing at all. And it was just so offensive. But there is one good show that is out. And call me a CCP shill if you want, because it's on Disney Plus. And, you know, I have Disney Plus for certain reasons that I can't get into, of course, because, you know, certain things you just can only watch certain places. But it's on Disney Plus, and it's called Andor. It's the latest and greatest, actually, I don't even think it's the latest anymore, but it's the latest live-action Star Wars show from, you know, in the new expanded universe or whatever. But it's got the same actor from Rogue One. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but he's a fucking brilliant actor, and everything about that show, Andor, is absolutely fantastic. The story is thrilling. The character development is lush. I mean, it is so fucking good. And I've been in love with it ever since it came out. And I'm only like one episode behind. And it's so good. Trevor says, wouldn't do it. Lord of the Rings was my favorite. Will not ruin it with this new crap. Amen. Amen. I will say this, Deborah. There's some change going on in the background of Lord of the Rings because they know as much as we do that the show was terrible. First-time showrunners. Ask me why you would give a group of rookie showrunners the most amount of money ever and say, go make this brilliant show that has an amazing legacy where you have zero contact with the source material, but just go do this thing. But they're changing up the showrunners. They're changing up a lot, and they're trying to completely revamp the show in season 2. So I have to go back, and I will check it out. So let's just say if your Amazon Prime subscription rides on Lord of the Rings for whatever reason, if that would be your thing, that would be weird. But if that's the case, don't re-up, and I will watch it because I have to watch it, and then I will report back, and I will tell you whether it's worth your Amazon Prime subscription. But also, if you want anything on Amazon Prime subscriptions, what's up? Anyways, we're moving on. This was actually, every now and again, BuzzFeed News has a decent article of things to talk about. So we're going to go over this. What to know about the Biden-Harris. These people are sexist. Look at that. Biden-Harris student loan forgiveness has been ruled unconstitutional. The federal judge surprised many by striking down the student debt relief program late on Thursday. Here's why he did that and what might happen next to revive it. First of all, bud, David Mack, BuzzFeed News reporter, shouldn't have surprised anybody. It shouldn't have surprised anybody because anybody knew that this was 100% unconstitutional. If you want this kind of governance, go move to Russia. Go move to a place like Russia where you can have the facade of democratic republicanism but at the end of the day, the single oligarchical figure of Vladimir Putin can just dictate on high whatever happens in the nation. If you want that kind of governance, go there. We don't do that here in America. Ideally. So yeah, we just kind of reiterate all the same things. Late Thursday, blah blah blah. It all took place. This all just happened today, which is great. Who's the judge? The fact you even have the segment in here that talks about who this judge is, because it's just because you have to say he's a Trump-appointed judge. Which, if you know anything, again, shouldn't surprise anybody that this was unconstitutional. But of course, if you didn't think it was unconstitutional, you probably don't even understand the fact that like this Trump-appointed judge probably had little to nothing to do with Trump at all. The Federalist Society is the one who gives the list of judge appointees to the executive branch when the Republicans are in power. And that's how they pick their judges. If you want to stand on high and think fucking almighty Trump for his Supreme Court nominations to get this, he didn't do any of that shit at all. Trump had no idea who these people were necessarily. A great Texan. Amen. A great Texan, Deborah, 100%. A great Texan who knows how to read the Constitution and can just go, I don't understand why you could do this. There's nothing in here that says you could do this. We'll get into that in a second because Joe Biden does technically think he has some kind of grounds for this student debt relief program, but boy, is it a stretch. But anyway, President Trump he is not solely responsible for the appointment of these judges, period. It could have been any Republican president in power at any point in time. It could have been anybody that had an R after their name. They would have appointed essentially the same judges because the Federalist Society creates the name of judges that they want on the benches. They give that to Mitch McConnell, the Republican leadership in the Senate, and then he takes that further up into whoever is in the White House at the time. That's how that works. President Trump don't know nothing about no judges. I'm telling you right now, there are people down the line who are not in government that study these people that as they come up through the judiciary in the smaller courts, and then they decide, they look at their records, they look at who they are as people, and they decide who should and should not be in the running for Supreme Court and for the rest of the federal judgeships there on out. It is a massive project that has been going on for over 50 years. It is single-handedly responsible for the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Trump had little to nothing to do with the actual overturning of that. Neither did Mitch McConnell. He just decided the Federalist Society did all the work for them. They just gave them the list, and they said, Here you go. Make it happen. Pick from the top 10 of these lists. Go. That's how that has worked over the last 50 years. Period. Not that, I mean, I don't want to like offend nobody if they're hardcore Trump people. I don't want to offend nobody. But that is the way it has worked for a long time. That's how it worked. Don't thank Trump. Thank the Federalist Society. That's all. That's all. So, what was the judge's reasoning in this student loan decision? Basically, it all came down to the way Biden went about enacting the program through an executive order rather than through law passed by Congress. Literally, Congress could have done that. And then we'd all really be fucked because Congress can get around, they can get around the Constitution way easier than the executive branch can. Yeah, Deborah, it's kind of a bitch because they all take responsibility for it and it makes them look good. And I mean, that's how the Republican Party maintains their status, if you will, in like political celebrity. But I mean, the Democratic Party has their own kind of version of this thing. But this is the machine, man. This is the uniparty at work here. This is just the duopoly of the uniparty working the way they do. It is nothing special. Lord Emperor Trump has little to nothing to do. He just picks names out of a hat, basically, that the Federalist Society gives them. That's just how that works. I forget the institution that does that on the Democratic side. I think they have more than one people that kind of contribute to that. But, like, where do you think Merrick Garland's name came from? Obama had no idea who Merrick Garland was, period. He had no fucking idea who that was. He only knew because I guess you would call them special interests, if you will, but like, you know, the equivalent of the Federalist Society and other groups like them on the Democratic side, on the leftist side, has their own version of like progressive judges and stuff that they want appointed to the courts. And so they have this kind of like general flow of information that reaches its way up through Nancy Pelosi, through Chuck Schumer, through the leadership to get up to the White House. If by chance Ruth Bader Ginsburg goes down or has to retire or something like that, they can appoint somebody. And then they go, okay, well, here's 5 people. And then, you know, whoever's in power at that point, Hillary Clinton will look at the list and go, oh, I like so-and-so. Tell me about them, blah, 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 blah. And then they'll appoint them to the court. These people, you got to understand, at the executive level, these people are just high-ranking party members that have gotten their chance, their turn at getting the top job. They're all just a bunch of fucking partisan actors. They don't care about you. They don't care about your Republican philosophy if you're a Republican, or your progressive philosophy if you're a progressive. They don't care about any of that shit at all. The only thing they care about is power and maintaining their power in the party. If you want the closest thing to that, what's up, Cat? You need to disappear. Come on now. The closest thing you got to look to in relationship to the way our political systems work in this country, you don't have to look any further than the CCP. It's very, very similar, except over there, it's just a single party rule. Over here, we have a duopoly, so we have 2 warring parties against each other that allows people to think that they belong to this side or that side, and one side is better than the other, when at the end of the day, they're all a single uniparty who don't give 2 shits about you. So anyways, we carry on. Quote, in this country, we are not ruled by an all-powerful executive with a pen and a phone. That's an Obama line, by the way. Instead, we are ruled by a constitution that provides for 3 distinct and independent branches of government, Pittman wrote in his 26-page decision, which we pulled up earlier. And yeah, I will say this right here. You want to talk about a base texting? There you go. There you go, Deborah. There's your fucking based ass texting right there. This dude understands the Constitution and says you cannot do this. I'm going to give you 26 pages on why you can't do this. And then BuzzFeed's going to turn around and try to put it into a couple of paragraphs. What legal reasoning was Biden relying on? Biden had crafted his program by arguing he had the power to do so thanks to a 2003 law passed by Congress called the Higher Education Relief Opportunities for Student Act, aka the HEROES Act. That law empowered the Education Secretary to waive or modify any federal student loan programs as deemed necessary, quote, in connection with a war or or other military operation, or, here's the important part, national emergency, end quote. Former President Donald Trump had formally declared COVID-19 pandemic a national emergency in March 2020, but Pittman decided that the case mirrored the, quote, major questions doctrine from the Supreme Court case in June between West Virginia versus the EPA, which I believe we talked a little bit about on the show. But it was a major case involving the major questions doctrine, wherein the court said the federal agency needed to be able to appoint a, quote, clear congressional authorization when trying to regulate an issue of major political or economic significance. And the HEROES Act wasn't enough. He said in 2003, the 2003 law didn't mention anything about forgiving loans, that the administration hadn't shown a connection between the program and the pandemic emergency, which the judge noted Biden had told 60 Minutes was, quote, over. And if we remember, I believe we went about that on the show at some point, but there was the 60 Minutes interview where Biden went on there and said, oh, no, the pandemic is over. Pandemic's over. And come to bite you in the ass, motherfucker. Federal court's going to turn around at some point. Some base-ass Texas judge is going to be like, nah, bro, you said it was over, so technically it's over, and none of this shit that you tried to pass matters anymore because you're the president, and you said it's over, so it's over, bud. You can't use this as an excuse. And that because the Education Department hadn't previously pointed the HEROES Act in order to cancel student loans, the fact that they were doing so now was probably evidence that it didn't authorize them to do so. So boom, right there. That's why it was essentially deemed unconstitutional. For one, we knew it was unconstitutional to begin with, but when you looked into their reasoning, tying it to the HEROES Act, and then saying, well, technically, if it's a federal loan program and it's affected by a national emergency, President Trump said the COVID-19 pandemic is a national emergency, so it hasn't stopped. So let's just do it and let it ride. Let's do it. We can get away with this. And if anybody pushes back, we'll just say, well, President Trump said it was a national emergency, and all we're doing is just trying to help people out during the national emergency. Even though I just went on 60 Minutes a couple weeks ago and said it's pandemic's over, so. But hey, just uniparty doing uniparty shit, man. Trying to get votes for the midterms to make sure there was no red wave, which there wasn't. That's the whole deal. Cannot wait to get that into tomorrow. Uniparty is going to be in full stall mode for the next 2 years. Nothing will get done. Amen, Donovan Phillips. Thanks for being in the chat, buddy. Yeah. And I'm trying not to give the entire deal away tomorrow because, like in Deborah's words, I have so many words to talk about this. I have so many words about this. But yeah, all this stuff it's all just nonsense, man. This was all just a massive vote grab. There was a few people talking about it at the time that kind of saw through the details there. It's blatantly unconstitutional. This is just another attempt to grab power, to get support before the midterms, and it's really I cannot see it being anything other than a grab for power, a grab for popularity right before the midterms came around. Timing's a little weird, like I said, because it did come out like a kind of a good chunk before midterms, but that was at the point too where the Democrats were kind of on a high. They were rolling high because the Roe decision or Dobbs decision did finally come down, and so ride that wave all the way to midterms. But we'll go deeper into that tomorrow. It's a whole deal, man. The moral of the story here is none of these people, if you're somebody that prescribes to, if you voted D across the board over the last week because these people are looking out for you and they're trying to help you out and to give you money and to like make sure your debts are forgiven and all this shit, none of that was real, man. None of that was real. They lied to your face because they wanted to get your vote, and then they got your vote. And now that they won't have any real power probably going forward, they're not going to do anything for you at all. All they're going to do at this point is try to just grasp whatever little bits of power they can get as we go forward into this lame duck session, which, again, may or may not happen. May or may not happen. Arizona's a total fucking shit show, and nobody knows how to count in Arizona, so we should probably look at the education programs in Arizona, because nobody can account for, nobody can add. We can't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down in Arizona, because we're at it's Friday. The midterm vote was on Tuesday. Yeah, it was on Tuesday, and we still don't know who voted for who in Arizona. We don't even know who voted for who in fucking Washington. Congratulations, people. Nobody knows how to count anymore. That's where we're at. Welcome. Brazil knew who the fucking new president was way faster than we knew who our new elected representatives are going to be. It's a whole deal, people. It's a whole fucking deal. But anyways, it is officially 5:16 now, and we're about 15 minutes into the new Timcast IRL, and I got to go to the ferry to go pick up my newly winged flight attendant wife, because she's coming home this weekend. And so, until tomorrow, everybody, I just want to make sure you know to be here tomorrow noon. Deborah, I know you're going to be here. Kevin, I hope you're still here, and I hope you come back tomorrow at noon right here on the Salt of the Streets channel, because you're going to like who comes and hangs out in the chat. It's going to be a whole deal. So be there, be square. We've got a whole fucking show ready to go for everybody. And until then, cheers, everybody. Let's kick off this weekend proper. Crack open a beer. Good Lord. And let's kick it off right. We will see y'all tomorrow.